And welcome back to the stage for a new season of the McQuaid Mission. From Keys to Change, CEO Amy Schwabenlender and Director of Programs Richard Cruz with us on the main stage, everyone. Richard Cruz. Also joining the conversation today, Brian Gruters. Brian is Regional Homeless Program Manager at Maricopa Association of Governments, also known as MAG to people in this room. Brian, yes. Okay. Last segment of the show, the McQuaid Mission has really become a model for how to rally leaders and create action, funding, and advocacy around the solutions that thought leaders in this space are calling for. So this year we have two primary goals. Number one, give everyone in this room and watching online a consistent and accurate picture of our region's homeless response system in real time. This is almost like a weather map back to our local news days, a weather report that shows what's current but also what's on the horizon. Many of you who are familiar with the McQuaid Mission know this is Amy's bell curve. So on the upper left, right now in our community, more than 9,000 people currently experiencing homelessness. That's the latest PIT count. The number to look at there, inflow, outflow. So that's 18 individuals entering homelessness for every 10 individuals exiting homelessness. So that's almost a 2-to-1 ratio. And then as we go down to the bell curve, what we're looking at is prevention on the left, episodes of homelessness in the middle, and housing on the right. And when Amy explains this to me, and we'll be showing this all season long, but a lot of our efforts right now in our homeless response system are in the middle of that bell curve. They're focused on episodes of homelessness with a lot of work needed in the prevention side and the housing side. So we'll continue to talk about the bell curve all season long, but keep you updated on what's going on currently with our homeless response system, because there's a lot of concerning obstacles heading our way as a community. The second goal, even more important, as we go through this season and we gain a better understanding of the challenges and identify the solutions that are working, bottom line, we want a major breakthrough when it comes to cohesion for this collective impact and effort. So many tremendous players in this space, a lot of them are in this room, watching online, but also many silos, as we know, that still need busted, gaps that need filled. Richard says it all the time. The answer is in this room, and by the end of the season, I'm going to say it again, we want a cohesion breakthrough with government, nonprofit, and the private sector coming together like we never have before. So as we start this conversation, Amy, keys to change. We're making this push for cohesion. Let's start this series with the role Keys to Change is currently playing in that homeless response system, and then where you want it to be.
Thank you for the setup, Eric.
You're welcome.
And good to be back
Good to have
talking about how to end homelessness. The bell curve represents Keys to Change organization, and we're about done rebranding from Human Services Campus. If people aren't caught up, we renamed from Human Services Campus The Place to Key Campus, and our 501c3 is Keys to Change. Yep. Those yellow circles in the middle and on the ends of the bell curve are the programs that Keys to Change operates in Maricopa County. And so we're doing both and. You just talked about systems change in the last segment. We're running programs and services. We're working on big systems pieces, advocacy, and working to influence how decisions are made and policies are set, and where can incremental change be made to have enough of those services in each component of the bell curve: prevention, intervention, and housing. And how do we look for, is it policy change? Is it realignment of funding to resource that bell curve becomes flat? And that's the idea of functional zero, that we have a truly functional crisis response system. If someone loses their housing, their episode of homelessness is brief and non-recurring. We still have people who end their homelessness and they fall back into homelessness. So we're looking at how can Keys to Change take our experience. We're on the ground serving over 1,000 people every single day. How do we take that data, the experience we have in working with people, and change how we respond to homelessness? How are we more proactive in having enough housing for everyone that wants to live in Maricopa County? So for us, it's a both and we're starting to do things differently. We have 5 other organizations we're working with that are also serving in the homeless sector, and we feel like Keys to Change can be that convener of the organizations doing this work. And we have Brian with us today because the role of government is so important. And then how do we also partner with where the other money is? So the non-governmental funding, whether that's private philanthropy, corporate foundations. For us, we need those 3 pieces working together if we really want to get to that breakthrough by June 30, 2025 would be fantastic.
Oh, I like that you're putting it. No, that's aggressive. I like
You
it.
said by the end of the season, so we all have a goal now.
And you did say something that I thought was important to hit on, because for those in the room that aren't in the space necessarily, when we're thinking about ending homelessness, like, you can't necessarily prevent someone from entering into homelessness. The key is that time period when they do enter homelessness. Keep that under 30 days. Make sure that anything that does happen within that time period, they can exit quickly. So that number that we showed you earlier, that 18 to 10, that number gets flipped around. I think that's the goal. That's what we're talking about here. Richard, as I kind of set this segment up, we can throw these blanket solutions out there. I can say things like, we need more collaboration and we need more cohesion. It sounds good. We need to bust silos. But in this space, particularly in homeless space, we know that the silos still need to be busted. We know there's overlap. We even know there's competition, of course, for the funding that Amy was just talking about. So what do you want to see happen?
So, thank you. Right. So what I want to be able to see happen is that we're able to be this space where everybody brings their puzzle piece, right? And together we create what this picture looks like, right? Because so often people come to the table, thinking that they know this is what the solution is. But we are in a space right now where what we've always done isn't even going to get us what we've always had, right? So it calls for us to do the work in a new way where it's not about competition, it's about what's the solution and then what's your lane. And then you work your lane, I'm gonna work my lane, but we're working this highway together so that we can make progress and we can truly end homelessness. We can't talk about working together ending homelessness if we're going to continue to stay in silos. We're gonna continue to compete. If I can't call Brian, or if I can call Jackson and say, this is what I've got today, what resources do you all have that we can plug in together? Because it's going to take what I've got and what you've got to really make what a real true solution can look like.
So as we talk about the resources we have in our community, and we'll be doing this throughout the season, we'll be bringing different guests on, different roles. Brian, in your role at MAG, you're a very, very big lever working in our community to solve this problem.
No pressure.
Yeah, like literally and figuratively. You said there are not enough levers in our community, not enough resources. So obviously what we need to be doing is what Richard was just talking about, maximizing these levers. And you have a pretty unique perspective because you get to see all the data coming in, and you get to decide where to put resources and funding. So what type of data are you seeing? And then in true sort of STN fashion here, like, what are some of the solutions that are gaining momentum?
We see all of the data.
Yeah.
No, we get lots of data. The data that we see, it's intentional. We go out and look for things that we don't necessarily have. So we have dashboards on who's entering homelessness, who's exiting homelessness, demographic breakdowns, all of that type of stuff. And then we draw in from other sources, right? We're looking at national data and that kind of thing. And we have a good team at MAG that's able to help with that. And then I would say we also rely on real data wizards. We partner with the Arizona Housing Analytics Collaborative, ASHAC, and that's 3 different universities and they all crunch data, right? So there is good data in the region. So the trick is to figure out what to do with that.
Right.
So we look at that, we look at what all that can tell us, and the gist of that is to figure out who needs what types of services, and how do we use those services to identify and serve the people who need it most. And that's maybe the trickiest question of all.
Okay.
We know for every 10 people that we're able to help, 18 more fall in. So there's obviously more people who need it than we have for. So with that in mind, how do you make decisions as a community about who to serve first, right?
And we'd love celebrating wins here. And one of the things you were telling me on a call, we've been talking through this episode about, equity, as you guys have been doing some things over at MAG, that you're seeing some success in that space.
Definitely, and I think calling back to what Dr. Thompson said in the previous segment, this is something that everybody needs to keep front of mind. The most important thing I think is just to make sure that people are served equally, right, in the way that they need to be served, consistent with what their needs are. And as long as that's happening, I think everybody's in a good place. That isn't always necessarily happening. So one of the things we do at I work under the continuum of care. One of the priorities under the continuum of care and their funders is to make sure that money is distributed in an equitable fashion. And so we take that very seriously.
Amy, I'm going to set up your call to action for you because, as we know, it is amazing what an audience like this with high influence, high representation can do. Last season, we actually ended this very first episode talking about we need more attention and we need more funding in homeless prevention, and we got it. But we still need it, as Richard said. But we were able to move the community conversation in a big way, and that's what we want to do again this season. You want leaders to take a bigger step towards systems change. And kind of like how we started this episode, with candor, what exactly does that mean when we talk about systems change and you have a room like this? How?
Right. Yeah, and I think systems change, people may not understand what that means, or it sounds so big and audacious,
Exactly.
and well, that'll never happen. And for me, I keep thinking back to the Central Arizona Project, water. And I was in Valley Leadership Class 34, and I remember Water Day, and I toured the CAP office, and this history of how the federal government, multiple states, the counties across Arizona, within cities, somehow in the late 60s, this is before there was even a whole bunch of technology we have today, people figured it out. And we now have, 400 miles of water system canals, and we get water. Now, we may not have enough, and there's a whole other part of the water conversation. The learning for me is people figured it out. They recognized that water was needed to all the people who wanted to live in Arizona, that it needed to be sustainable, it needed to be paid for, and they've made it happen. And now it's decades later, and we have this system that ensures that water is treated like a human right. I was reading something that says gold is a commodity. In the US, we treat housing like a commodity, but gold isn't a human right. Housing is a human right. And so my call to action is we're seeking the people, the organizations that want to be part of that conversation. How do we talk about housing as a human right and figure out how to bring all of the sectors together to create the foundation that lasts so we have enough affordable, accessible, supportive housing for everyone who wants to live in Arizona.
And it's starting right now. So Brian, you and Mag, as we mentioned, play a huge role in this effort. What type of actions from this group would help your efforts?
I think to Amy's point, we need more housing and we need it bad. I would say support that when you can in your communities, in your cities, nationally. I'm happy to hear that for the first time that I can remember, this has become part of political candidates' platform at the highest level. So I think this is super relevant, but we need people to support it. And I think that means making it clear to your local elected leaders that this is okay to support.
And Richard, obviously, I do this on purpose. I save him for last in these situations. And just to kind of echo what Amy was talking about, like, this is possible. Like, that was the 60s, right? When, the communication we have now, and I saw this thing the other day, like, we put a man on the moon before we put wheels on luggage. Like, what like, wow. That really happened.
Yes.
We can do these things. So, Richard, coming up with solutions is only half of it. It's the buy-in and it's the action that Amy is talking about. So what is your message? What's your rallying message right now, episode 1?
Yeah, so right now, episode 1, if each of you had a puzzle piece, I need you to come to the table, right? And I need you to come to the table and like we work through the difficulty of putting this puzzle together that is the solution. And nobody like runs away because they're like, I got frustrated because your puzzle piece was a corner piece and mine was in the middle and I wanted to place my corner piece now and I didn't get to, right? In the beginning of the show today, you talked about how you got to put skin in the game, right? And in order to put skin in the game, you've got to show up. Right, but skin in the game, like it's not just coming in doing some beautification project, it's really thinking through what are the resources that my organization has and how do I actually put them into this? Because if I don't invest in this now, that problem's going to be in my face. If I don't invest in this now, that problem's going to be in my backyard, in my alley, on my patio, on like in my house, because I decided that this was cute for me to do right now and then I ran away. Right, so I need you to come to the table, bring your puzzle piece, be committed, and together, working together, ending homelessness, believing that it's possible, right, all these things can happen.
Where's the answer?
In the room. The answer's here. It's in the room. Like, everybody's got their puzzle piece. It's just about, are you willing to come to the table and put it down? And if you're willing to do so, like, you can come down to 12th and Madison, right? And we'll work it together. We can figure out what your organization can do and what we can do together to be able to end homelessness. But it starts here in the room.
I just want to punch them sometimes. I get so excited. All right, so everybody figure out where your puzzle pieces are and bring them down to Key Campus. Let's hear it. A round of applause for our first episode of the McQuaid Mission.